Ladies and gentlemen, we have a quorum. We have to revisit a couple of things therefore, so I'm calling the meeting to order. You all have electronic copies of the last meeting's minutes. If there are no changes, the chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
To approve. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
I wasn't here last.
I'm sorry?
I was not here last meeting, so abstain.
Oh, okay, right, well, sorry, I should ask for abstentions. Okay, so my remarks are relatively straightforward. We do have two articles that we have to revise, one for Blue Hills Regional and then another that Mike and Amy will talk about because we received the Blue Hills Regional presentation very late in the cycle and we had already voted. So, Mike, would you recap now that we're in session?
Your microphone is on.
It's on now. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Myself, the town accountant, Amy Dexter here tonight. We received a document from Blue Hills Regional Technical High School last week, which changed the assessment due from the town of Milton. Most of it is based on the enrollment numbers for the coming fall. Anticipated to increase 3 heads from 45 students to 48 students. Overall, from their spreadsheet, the enrollment in the school looks to be going from 881 students to 863 students. So overall, it looks like there are less bodies in the seats, but more from Milton. So we are paying a little more than we had anticipated. Our original number, which was voted by this committee, was $882,673, which was an anticipated 6% increase from Mr. Pavlicek from the school system. That number, based on the document received from Blue Hills Regional last week, becomes $926,165, the difference of $43,492. So we asked this committee to consider that increase, and then we can talk about the other side of that coin, which is the group insurance. Myself and the town accountant met a couple of times to try to figure out where we could find that $43,492 on the other side of the ledger. She came up with a very good idea. There is a built-in increase in the enrollees of group insurance every year. It's budgeted at the family rate, which is higher than the individual rate. It was budgeted for 10 individuals at the family rate. If you take that and make it 6 at the family rate and 4 at the individual, you can make up the $43,492. Again, it's 0.3% of the group insurance budget. So we think it's something that's prudent and responsible given the circumstances of meeting our obligation with Blue Hills Regional.
Do you have any questions? Kevin?
I do. Mike, and maybe you don't have the answer, but so the increase in Milton students was one impact on the increase of our assessment. Do you know if there was an impact based on the reduction in enrollment? Because is it going to continue to happen that if we increase our enrollment and other districts decrease their enrollment, does that mean we're paying more of, we're getting a higher assessment and then a hit for additional students? And is that going, do we anticipate that it's going to continue? So we should be looking down the road.
Yeah, the number of Milton students has been pretty static. It's in that mid-40 range. It'll go up down to next year, FY20, the town will have to pick up additional operating expenditures. October town meeting approved $83 million in debt to repair the 50-year-old school. Milton's portion of that will be anywhere from $85,000 to $100,000 a year. So that per student assessment will also go up by that next year. But if that number should float back down it is, to answer your first question, it's an aggregate of the total number of students. So Randolph and Braintree that send the most students pay a larger portion of it. And I flipped through the document quickly today, but Avon, the number of students increased. Braintree, the number of students went down. They went down 3 students on 163 last year. Canton went down 1 student. Milton went up 3, and the other community that went up was Dedham. Dedham went from 72. So Milton basically makes up almost 6% of the population at the school. It was closer to 5% last year. So I don't know if I've answered.
Yeah, somewhat so, but I'm just a little concerned that if the total enrollment for the Blue Hills continues to trend downward, does that increase our assessment? One factor, and then the other factor is that if our enrollment increases, that's another factor that
Yeah,
would...
we could see a double hit if enrollment numbers from other communities continued to decline,
Okay.
like they did in 2/3 this year. I think the other third that is increasing has to pick up the difference.
Yeah, well, I can chime in that. Blue Hills, obviously, it's an operating budget, so it's got to be balanced, so,
Right.
and it's going to be balanced by the, 11 members, how many?
9 members full
9,
committee,
yeah.
yep.
Well, the member towns, yeah. Is it 9?
9, yep.
And it's not an even divide. It's an algorithm that also includes the wealth of the community,
Okay.
so it's weighted. So potentially, yeah, if enrollment goes down and Milton's doesn't, then everybody's going to see a bigger portion of that budget. I mean, theoretically, I guess the budget goes down, they'll have some layoffs or something, but if
Okay.
it doesn't, then yeah.
All right, thanks.
Steve, you had a question?
I did, the sort of theory on the group insurance is that we add about 10 people a year. Is that like a several-year trend that we've been adding 10, or is that?
No, we just always usually have a contingency in there of about 10 employees. Last year it was more because of the override. So we had the 2 different budgets, the non-contingent, contingent. So the contingent budget that was passed actually included 10 plus anticipated increases for new hires. So that 10 is just in census changes. And, people leave that maybe weren't on the insurance, and then the new hire takes the insurance, things like that. So you have to have something in there, but it's always just a guess.
There's a lot of art as well as science, I think, in these projections. But it's wise always to have a cushion, and I think this cushion will be sufficient, given the history, as I had gone through the past budgets. Are there any other questions? Tom?
One other question. Is the group insurance budget necessarily, because it's really a trust fund, it's a fund that's set up, it physically exists, correct? And it has, it's self-insurance, so we're funding a fund, a trust fund, a cash fund someplace, that obviously is an estimate and has reserves in it. Is that necessarily, so, that goes into this big thing. The expenditures coming out, do they really, I guess what I'm asking is, if you decided to deficit spend that fund, in other words, the fund was big enough, and...
Underfund it?
The town has to contribute to that fund
By
in
statute.
proportion to the employees, so we can't, so this appropriation is based upon the town's 76%. So what we do is we true it up when we see what the withholdings from the payroll are, and from the retirees' payroll as well as the active employees. And
That's money going in. The money that comes out of the fund is paying claims.
correct.
So it's...
And premiums.
Right, so those claims are from any given year could be, so if we've already said, okay, I mean, it would be hard to get a deficit per se, or how would you overspend that line item?
If more employees take
Signed up.
insurance, we have to equally,
Okay.
the money up front
Contribution.
has to be,
Yeah, then
what
you-
goes
then you
in
have to-
has to be.
yeah,
So
okay.
More
if
people
more
getting
come on
Yeah.
than we anticipate, then our portion has to go up
By,
by the same amount.
yep.
So is there a carryover balance year to year, or does that get true back up to zero and you start over again each year?
What do you mean, a
Are you putting money in and taking it out for claims at the end of the fiscal year? Does it, any balance that's in there come out, or does it just remain in the trust?
It's in the fund.
Okay.
It's in the fund, so there's a balance in there, so that one of the reasons why this budget is always towards the end of the cycle is because we meet with Cook and Company, who are our insurance advisors, and we look at the actual claims, because if our claims are running high, which are paid directly out of the trust, you need to make sure
Right.
whatever you set for your new premiums are going to be enough that you don't get into trouble with that trust. You need to have a balance in there for what they call incurred but not recorded, meaning people
you're
have
gonna
been
pay.
injured,
Right.
kind of like an accrual.
So do you, try to keep up 150% of them incurred but not booked, what's that number?
They're incurred, I don't really know what it is percentage-wise. They give us that incurred but not recorded number at year end, the auditors accrue for it. But they say, they have a formula where they say you want to maintain at least so much in there. I don't really recall what that calculation is off the top of my head, but, right now, the balance in that fund is fairly healthy. That's why when they recommended an 8% increase, what did they say? They recommended an 8 to 12% increase in the premiums, and because we do have a healthy balance in there, we made a decision that 5% was more reasonable. Because you don't want that to completely build up out of control.
And what is the healthy balance?
I think it was somewhere around, was it 3.3 million, maybe at the end of last year? I'd have to look it up. I don't think I have that in here.
Okay, that's all right.
That was closer to 4 at the end of last year.
And is there an industry standard where we should be at? Are we meeting at least that industry standard? Are we higher than or lower than in that trust fund?
They appreciate the fact that the town has negotiated collective bargaining agreements with the unions, that the membership is picking up more of a percentage. 2 years ago, the town picked up 80% of it, and the employee got 20% deducted from their check biweekly. That went to 78.22 last year. It's at 76.24. They appreciate that trend. When I left Boston, it was 75.25 for most of the unions. So I think the goal is to continue to work with your unions in town to get that way, and not have to depend on whatever that ratio is, whether it's 150 or 125x.
I think when we met with them, if my memory is serving me right, they recommended somewhere between, I think, 2.5 to 3.5 million in there would be a healthy level, and we were closer to 4 or so. So I think we're in good shape.
Sounds like it.
Do you have any other questions? Okay, so at hand, we have the request to increase the Blue Hills Tech assessment to $926,165 and alter our approval of $882,673,000 by $43,492 for the coming year. The offset would be a $43,492 reduction in our approval for the general insurance fund.
Do you need a motion?
I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I wonder if we need to split that into two votes, because it's two different things.
I was going to ask.
Yeah, you probably should.
We probably should.
You definitely should.
But anyway, as long as we have, let's take the first piece then.
I move to amend
Withdraw
the
your
budget.
Actually, first of all, just for a point of order, first you have to reopen, because you already voted that budget.
Okay,
So
right.
you have to vote first to reopen, then to change.
Okay, thank you. So do I have a motion to reopen the Blue Hills Tech?
So moved.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we have on the table an amendment for the $882,673 approved budget for Blue Hills Tech from the town of Milton to be increased by $43,492 to $926,165. We have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Passed. Consequently, we have, Amy, would you give me the exact figure, so I don't have to fiddle through this, on the general insurance?
Yeah.
That you can probably find it fast. Oh, Mike, you might have it fast.
So it was previously voted at $11,129,504.
Okay.
It's recommended to be revised to $11,086,012.
Thank you.
I guess I have to make a motion to...
Open discussion on general insurance.
The general insurance.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
General
Group insurance.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Okay. So we have on the table a suggestion, a request to reduce the group insurance allocation that we voted from $11,129,504 to $11,086,012 to compensate for our last change.
So moved.
Motion? A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstention? No, very good. Thank you very much. Okay, so that keeps us in balance. Mike, do you have anything else?
We have one more
Okay.
that we would entertain, that this committee would reopen and possibly revote. As many of you know, the 3,300 streetlights in the town were retrofitted. Committee member McCurdy had made a great suggestion last year that we borrow that money from the stabilization fund. At the time, I believe the Warrant article gave the town the ability to borrow $750,000 to pay for the lights, with the idea that we will pay ourselves back as soon as we get the return in the form of an incentive check from Eversource for doing the work, and then the annual energy savings on the streetlights. Amy, town accountant, had reached out to Powers and Sullivan. We received a check in January for the incentive. We got a check for $210,764 from Eversource. That was the incentive check for performing the act. I'll back up a little bit. The actual cost of the program was $716,585. So we didn't need the $750,000. The contractor came in and did it for a little less expensive than we needed. Included in that is a 10% contingency, so we have lights in case someone hits a pole tonight, or a light malfunction and stuff like that. So the total cost of the program was $716,585.
Okay.
We were authorized to take $750. We didn't. We have the incentive check, and then we also committed to putting $110,000 worth of energy savings from the lights back into the stabilization fund annually.
Okay.
Town accountant got permission from our auditor to do that now as a part of the Article 30 Stabilization Fund appropriation for FY19. And I'll let her get into the accounting treatment of the numbers and how it looks, actual appropriated recommended. But basically, 46% of the money we were authorized to take for the LED street lighting, again, based on the sage advice from Mr. McCurdy, will be paid back this year. The other 54% will be paid back in increments as we save the annual energy costs for those lights.
Amy?
Okay, because town meeting last May voted to transfer $750,000 out of the capital stabilization fund to this project, we were required to do that full transfer even though we didn't need it all. So all of these transactions are recorded in the capital projects fund, so we have the source of funds of the $750 from the cap stabilization were transferred in. We have the cost of $716, and then we have this rebate that the proper accounting treatment according to the accounting firm is to record that as a reduction of the costs of the project. So that $716 minus the $210 comes to a cost of, net cost of $505,911. So when all these transactions are recorded in the capital project fund, that leaves a balance in there of this $244,089. So if you were to revise the recommendation, it would be in a total appropriation into the capital stabilization fund of $354,089, which is the original $110,000 from the savings in electricity costs because the LED lights cost less to run, plus the $244,089 of remaining balance in the capital project fund. So the total appropriation would be $354,089, but the source of funds would be $110,000 from the tax levy for capital stabilization and $244,089 to be transferred from what we call on the books the LED streetlight replacement capital projects fund. So
Is that an available fund?
yes,
So it'd be transferred from available funds.
yes.
What department was that made out of?
DPW.
So we resolved that that is in fact available funds and not, because that was a question, right?
It doesn't, right, originally my question to them was, I was thinking we could just not transfer the full $750, but Mass General laws require any transfer in or out of a capital stabilization fund has to have a 2/3 vote from town meeting. So because they voted the $750, we were required, even though we knew we didn't need it, to do it. So now we're just trying to, it's really housekeeping just to put it back, right?
I get that. So how would the motion actually?
So I reworded, I think I
Yeah.
gave a draft of the article, but, so this article is the three stabilization funds, the regular general stabilization, capital stabilization, and road stabilization.
Right.
So the numbers when I read it are gonna agree to all the funds for that.
Yes.
So it's to meet the set appropriation. So the total appropriation of those three funds would be $654,089 if you revote this. And it will be, that to meet said appropriation, the sum of $210,000 be raised from the tax levy. That's the $110 from the streetlight savings, plus another $100,000 of operating funds into the road stabilization fund.
Right.
And that the sum of $200,000 be raised from funds certified by the Department of Revenue as free cash. That's the $200,000 appropriation that was recommended to go into the general stabilization fund, and that the sum of $244,089 be transferred from the LED streetlight replacement capital projects fund.
Okay. So what I need to know is, from you, the net change from what we voted to what has to happen. That's I believe, what we need to vote
Well,
tonight.
first, you gotta, again, open
You
it
have
up.
to open it up, right.
And then I would probably just read the whole recommendation again, I'll gladly read it, but,
Okay.
so you know what you're voting.
Okay. I just wanted to get to the net change.
I do have a question though before I read it, is, again, should it say in the recommendation, in the sum of $244,089 be transferred from available funds, or should you get that specific?
Yeah, I was gonna-
Typically, we just say available funds.
Well,
I think.
Normally, we're specific. For instance, Maggie and I had a discussion last week about the 1,400,000 from the lease. Usually it's specific. When the 750 came out, it said capital stabilization. When the 1,400 comes out to the public safety article, I believe it's, I forget what the term is. Do you have that there, Maggie? It says 1,400 and it
mine?
references the law.
Chapter
It says from the...
187 of the Acts of 1981.
But does it
Yeah, okay.
refer to
Yeah.
the leash
The leash licensor law.
Surcharge?
Yeah,
Okay,
surcharge.
all right,
It's the available balance in that fund.
fine, right.
Yeah, otherwise, I think, and then also in the proposed enterprise fund, when we're using the sewer mitigation I&I, that's shown specifically as a source of fund. I would be more comfortable. I don't think you could ever get in trouble for being more specific
Yeah, probably
than
not.
too general. 'Cause
What is the article number we're going to open up?
Article 30.
Article 30, okay. Okay,
So I make a
so,
motion to open Article 30.
do we have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Okay, here we are.
Okay, so now I'll make a motion to change the recommendation for Article 30 to read as follows. Recommend that the town appropriate the amount shown in the following tabulation under the heading Recommend FY19 Stabilization Funds. Stabilization Fund, $200,000. Capital Stabilization Fund, $354,089. Road Stabilization Fund, $100,000. Grand total, $654,089. And to meet said appropriation, the sum of $210,000 be raised from the tax levy, and that the sum of $200,000 be raised from funds certified by the Department of Revenue as free cash, and that the sum of $244,089 be transferred from the LED streetlight replacement capital projects fund.
Thank you.
Very good.
Any discussion?
Second.
Number first, didn't you?
Well, we do need the motion to accept that.
Yeah, that was a
That was the motion, okay. And we have the second discussion, none, hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? No abstentions? Thank you very much. Passed. Very good. Done. That's it. That's all she wrote. Okay.
This is the spreadsheet we made.
So, that concludes all of the articles that we have. We have, I believe, no new business.
Why?
Jonathan, thank you for making us legal. If there is no new business, the chair will
There's a lot of...
communicate with you. Our next meeting will probably be sometime
Here it doesn't...
early April. I don't think we need one in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
We've certainly put in plenty of time. I thank you all, and I'm assuming that your neighbors will thank you for all the service you have done to the town, because this is really one of the unsung functions that never really gets acknowledged. So thank you all very much for all the work that you put in. And hearing no other new business, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you all very much. Good night.